Episode was brought to you by Top Drawer Talent, the supply chain and procurement recruitment specialist. Here we go.
Welcome to episode 3 on 1040 with Women in Business and STEM podcast. Today we're joined by Claire McEvely. She is the CEO of Airfield Estate and has an extensive background in public health nutritionist. Claire, you're very welcome today.
Thanks very much.
Thank
Lovely
you.
to be here.
Good intro.
Thank you very much. We've been working on the intros all day. So we're just going to have a chat just about your background and advice that you can give to women in business or people aspiring to get into business. But one of my questions for you was, when you were in school, what did you want to be when you were leaving school, and did that transpire in what you actually became?
Yeah, so I really wanted to be a physiotherapist, which my husband laughs about now because he's just like, seriously,
Yeah.
you hate sport. And what happened was I put physio down on my CAO as
Okay.
my first choice, and I put nutrition in Cork. And the reason it was because I'm a dub, to go away to college at that time was just completely unheard of. Was because when I was choosing my subjects in the Leaving Cert to do nutrition, in Dublin you had to have chemistry, and I didn't do chemistry, so Cork was the only place that you could do it. Didn't get enough points for physio, which actually turned out to be a blessing in disguise, and had the most amazing time in UCC. Best move I ever made. Just absolutely loved it. Whole different experience than my friends who would have, stayed in Dublin, gone to college in Dublin. Yeah, had a brilliant time.
Head of the Cork.
Yeah, because physiotherapy and nutrition is obviously, say, in the last decade, like hugely topical, and a lot of people are going into that. What was the kind of environment like when you were looking into it? Was it as kind of big of a topic back then as it is now?
I'd say no, not really. And I suppose maybe it's my first tip that what happened over time, it wasn't just about studying nutrition or, doing nutrition research. It was actually nutrition communications that the door opened for me. That was a time when, companies were really excited about promoting their brands with a nutrition message. Government was kind of getting more interested in the role of nutrition in health. And after my time in UCC, I got a scholarship to study nutrition communications in Boston. So another amazing couple of years. And during that time, I went to work for Kellogg's in Battle Creek in Michigan. They were the first company I ever worked for. And having gone from Boston, where you're Irish, you're welcomed into the fold, they all love you, to Michigan, where they couldn't understand me. But when I was there, I met this guy who worked for Kellogg's, and it was his job to influence government. And I just thought, I was 23, and I just thought that was the coolest job. It was science, it was big industry, and it was government. And I knew then at 23, that's what I wanted to be when I grew up. And many years, many different jobs later, I ended up, before joining Airfield, doing that role for Danone. So yeah, I was one of those people who I kind of knew at 23 what I wanted.
Yeah,
Okay, that's really
you
good.
really caught it on like the cusp. So that was like kind of as you said, when there was more emphasis on products showing the nutritional value, and that's when you were just coming into that arena, if you want.
And I think as well, and it's one of my passions is linked to STEM is there's so much research out there, but how do we communicate it to the public? And that's a skill, and it's a skill that some scientists have, and they're amazing at it, and some just don't. So I think it's one of the most exciting things in STEM is actually the communication side of science.
How did you end up going from UCC in Cork to the US? Like, how did that all happen?
Really lucky, totally random. I had this I was doing this research project. I was only thinking about it when I was walking down. I was doing this research project about this particular type of drug that would treat osteoporosis in women. And I was in this lab, like hungover, and I was just like, oh my God, I can't be in this world. And I had this amazing supervisor, and I went in, and she was like, look, there's a few brochures, have a little look. And the program at Tufts University in Boston, the nutrition communications program was the first one. So I was like, wow, that's it. Give it a lash, apply, like had to do all these mad exams and things. I had been to Boston the summer before my J1. So I kind of knew the place. But yeah, I mean, Tufts as a university has a massive research department. And then Emerson is the communications university, and the program was joint between the two. And then to obviously an internship, which I think is now more than ever super important. Kellogg's was a great gig to get then after that.
Yeah, brilliant. And how long were you in the US for then?
About 2.5 years, and then so I didn't have a visa to be able to stay. And then I ended up getting a job, my first proper job in PR in London, working for a big PR agency on brands that have a communications message.
Yeah.
And this is probably my second tip. So I'm sitting there in London, delighted myself, thinking I'm like your woman from Ab Fab, working in PR, loving it. There was a bar in the reception, and oh my God, it's
nice.
amazing. Now, I've never worked as hard as my life, and I never will again. Like, you worked hard. And Benecol, the cholesterol lowering margarine, that had just been launched in the UK, and we'd managed to get it on the 6 o'clock news, BBC. So huge deal, like massive deal for our brand. And I'm downstairs. The brand hadn't been launched in the UK just yet, and so we had shipped over packets of margarine from Finland that were gone off.
Oh no.
So I'm in this basement scooping out the gone off margarine, and I'm ringing my mother going like, I have a master's. And my mother's like, Claire, everyone has to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's just it. Like, that's what I really think now, and especially with the team that I lead. Like, I've been you. I've been a young woman trying to start my career thinking, absolute notions. But you have to start somewhere. And it was a good life lesson. So, a couple of years in London, came home, ended up working for Safe Food, so the government agency, and then an opportunity came up in Cambridge to work in a research division of the university for the UK Special Advisor on Obesity. So a big obesity researcher, massive research programme, and to be her communications manager. So spent 5 years in Cambridge, absolutely amazing time, up and down to 10 Downing Street, like really trying to influence change. It was when kind of Jamie Oliver was just kind of getting going with his school meals and Super Size Me, all of that, like kind of loads going on. And then had 2 kids and couldn't cope without me mammy. So came home. Came home.
And
so
just even now, when you were doing your research back then, is it as prevalent as it was? Is it prevalent as it is now than it was then, or do you think it's getting worse?
Oh, it's totally getting worse, and it's getting worse in kids. And they would be I think anyone who works in the nutrition space, kids would be the biggest concern, definitely, because. Yourself, it's extremely difficult to lose weight. And like, if you're already having, overweight when you're young, it's even harder to shift it. And look, it's a lifestyle for the whole family. It's not about, picking on the kids or picking on the adults. It's for the whole family to
It's
think
also,
about.
I think, socio-economic as well. Sometimes, well, I can't speak for everybody. I like cooking, so I love going to get me shopping and get me fresh veg and doing me home meals. But some people either are too busy and they can only buy in packaged food or processed food, so that's the easiest way out for them. But it is in the long run, it's probably not the best choice.
But it's also a life skill to plan your menus, put your shopping list together, be on a budget, then come home after a busy day. The kids are screaming and cook a dinner. Like it's not. It's complex.
Yes,
and
it's doable.
Yeah,
it is. But like the level of organisation that has to go into it is
a bit of discipline.
So I suppose what in my roles, which have all been in communications roles, it's about trying to make it as simple and easy as possible for people, and also to get around this. Oh, it's okay. Yeah, it might be much quicker to open a ready-made pizza and shove it in the oven, but actually. Making it from scratch is so much better.
And with your extensive background in communications, what is the key to communicating that message to people? You obviously work with different brands. You probably have different sort of objectives. But what is it that makes a good communicator to put that out to the public for them to resonate with it?
I think it's really changed. Yeah. It's not a one-size-fits-all message for everybody. We see it in Airfield, how we're trying to target different audiences and different groups. But I think more than ever before, it is about being your authentic self, and also it's the personal stories. I think bringing it back to the personal story just makes such a difference, and so that's what we're trying to do with our comms at Airfield.
And then you went into Danone, so big, huge brand. Yeah. How did you move from? So you were in Cambridge, doing your research.
Came home. Ended up in UCD working on a big project called Food for Health Ireland, which is a collaboration between the 7 universities and dairy companies, the scientists coming up with kind of what's the next big thing in dairy. And so I had a communications role there. And then, just really wanted to, I suppose, going back to my Kellogg's time, to work for a big multinational. with big brands. So I ended up in a corporate affairs role for Danone. And corporate affairs is really about protecting the brand's reputation. They would have controversial brands, infant formula, bottled water, yogurts, and so a lot of issues dealing with government, dealing with the press, but an amazing company, an amazing opportunity, and all very much around a very famous CEO in 1972 said that their responsibility doesn't end at the factory gate, that they have to be responsible all the way to their consumers. And how they live and breathe that now is Danone is a B Corp. And these are companies that are purpose-led.
What's the like day to day, right, in your role with Danone? Like, what would you have done like day to day? I know like you're protecting the brand and watching, like looking after the reputation of the company, but like day to day, what are you actually doing like in like day to day?
Yeah, so a lot of it is around making the right relationships with the stakeholders, and usually in the good times, because it's clearly when you have a crisis is when you need them. And also working on different campaigns that might have a nutrition message, so working really closely with different teams. And then over time, also just looking at Danone's reputation in Ireland, because they have two big factories here in Macroom and Wexford that make the infant formula. So at the time, the factory in Wexford was aiming to be the first carbon neutral infant formula factory in the world. And so big piece around that. But then in later years, we went for the B Corp accreditation for Danone in Ireland. And that's basically B Corp it's like fair trade. It's like a stamp of approval that says your business is thinking about its customers, the environment, its governance. And so it's essentially 200 plus questions that you go through, everything from what bleach you're using in your bathroom right through to your HR policies. Wow. And it's about 100,000 companies have gone for it, and there's about 8,000 that have it. So it's really hard to get, and you only get you once you get it, you can lose it, and you have to be doing better every 3 years when you're audited.
Okay,
again.
so you're assessed every 3 years to
Exactly.
make sure.
Yeah.
Project were you leading that project, or what was that like to take on such a task?
Yeah, so leading it for the Danone dairy business in Ireland, the first accreditation, but it was very much came from the top. I think that's really important about if you're going to work for a multinational, really sorry, it's all about the leadership and what they're like and how they are invested in. I think now all companies are saying, oh yeah, we're about sustainability, but are you really? And so it definitely came from the top. But it was I refer to it as my third pregnancy. Like it nearly killed me. Like it was really hard to get.
Tough.
Really hard to get. And then just amazing to and look, this is probably 5 years ago now. Nobody had heard of it in Ireland. My sister-in-law lives in LA. We were in LA last year. It's everywhere. Like it's on shop windows. It's on brand packets. Like here in Ireland, we've 44 companies, and Ireland and Portugal are the two fastest growing markets for B Corp in the world, in Europe. Yeah. And so there's definitely an interest in it, and some really nice stats. So, for example, Waitrose, the supermarket in the UK. Waitrose would have like a B Corp hub on their website for the foodie brands, and they can see people aged 25 to 35 choosing these brands over non-B Corp brands because people are so worried about greenwashing that they're saying, well, if this crowd have gone through the whole accreditation process and have gotten it, I'm going to pick them. The other big interesting thing, certainly from Danone's point of view and going back to recruitment and talent, it's now... We could see in Danone, particularly in London, which has a young team, that people are choosing to go and work for B Corp companies. Like we had a big restructure, and about 32% of people who left went to other B Corp brands. So if you're trying to attract new talent, which we all know is such an issue now, and you're competing against, the Metas and the Googles that certainly younger people are choosing to go and work for these brands because they know that they're legit and that they're invested. So massive piece of work, but really fab, really interested. And I've stayed involved. Obviously the movement in Ireland is only really getting going. We laugh, 4 years ago, we had an event in the Patagonia, because they're a B Corp shop, and there was 20 people in the shop on a rainy night. And we had an event in March for B Corp month. and there was 350 people in the room.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
definitely.
And they're doing great, Patagonia, because I think the owner of Patagonia is saying any profits or anything is going back in.
Yeah,
And
to
they're
the staff.
to the staff.
Yeah.
So they're not actually making profits. But I think, as you said, especially with my generation and then the younger generation, I think they've a more of a sense of the brands that they actually resonate with, instead of what it previously used to be, the kind of the top 5 or top 7. I think people are more specialised in it, and they're looking at what they want because it resonates with them. You know.
Yeah, and choosing brands that have worked really hard in terms of their sustainability credentials, and are trying to improve year on year. So yeah, some fantastic brands in Ireland, and more to come.
You mentioned just recruitment there. What was your recruitment process like in Danone and in these multinational corporations? Was it like these days we have 6, 7, 8 rounds?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah,
Really?
which was
Yeah.
fine when you were going to be the CEO. Fair enough. Oh yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
Like it is hard. And look, I suppose from a multinational's point of view, you know, they want to make sure they're getting the right person. But yeah, it's always a bit of a chore. Like, it's a full-time job getting a job. So
Yeah,
it was
it
tough.
definitely is. Did were you ever involved in like the interview process for your own team? Yeah.
Yeah, so I joined Airfield at about 2.5 years ago, and so it is the dream job for a nutritionist.
Yeah.
For those people who don't know, Airfield is an urban farm and gardens just up the road from Dundrum Shopping Centre, 38 acres, beautiful, beautiful space, and we're all about getting people to reconnect with where their food comes from. So we have activities and programs. We do school tours. We have a cookery school. We have a beautiful restaurant. So when I joined, like any new CEO, you know, you start off with a new strategy.
Yeah.
You then end up with a new organizational structure, and unfortunately, that in many times means redundancies.
Yeah.
And so we went through that whole process. I would hope I would never have to go through it again. It's extremely, obviously, very, very difficult. And then on the back of that, then we've hired a lot of new people over certainly about the past 18 months. And my newest hire starts on Monday, who's a new head of research. So yeah, we've done a lot of recruitment recently.
Yeah. In Airfield, right, like day to day, what's your job now in Airfield, right? So I know you put in place a new strategy, but day to day now, like what are you doing? Like, give us an overview of your role.
Yeah, it's completely varied, and I
It's
suppose if I
varied,
look at
yeah.
all the jobs that I've done, that's probably the common theme. Like,
Yeah.
I hate doing the same thing every day. I get really bored. 5 years is the longest I've ever lasted anywhere, and that's with 2 maternity leaves. So, you know,
Okay.
Yeah.
get super bored. So, you know, it could be anything from we're doing a big piece of work on our fundraising strategy. You know, we have an amazing commercial team, but kind of helping them in terms of, you know, we want companies to work and partner with us. We're looking for sponsors. So how do we come up with a proposition that will appeal to the company that they, you know, who has a budget, and there's plenty of other charities asking them for them to partner. So what's our value proposition? How could it resonate with them? So kind of a lot of strategic thinking going on, but also, you know, we were sitting in a room yesterday talking about Santa.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
So,
the time.
We've been talking about Santa since January, so so completely different.
But are you guys government funded, or are you self funded, or?
No, so our story was 2 amazing ladies grew up at Airfield, the Overend sisters, and they never married.
Yeah.
I like to say, if they had married, it would be apartments, because there's no way any bloke, with the greatest respect, lads, there's no way any bloke would allow 38 acres of prime Dundrum residential land to be handed
not
over.
to be
So
sold.
anyway, the ladies didn't marry. They made the decision to hand over the estate to the people of Ireland in 1974, and they set up a trust, and they continued to live there until the mid-90s. And then the second sister passed away, and we took a couple of years before we opened to the public. So we are a trust. We have a trust fund, which we're very fortunate to have that. But even though it's a charity, and this is one of my biggest challenges for people who move. So I'd always worked I'd certainly come from Danone, like very corporate, very commercial. Moving to the non-for-profit sector, that still means you have to make money, lads.
I know.
Yeah.
And that's quite hard certainly for people to
Understand.
understand. Yeah.
Was that mindset shift hard for you as well, or was it?
No,
Did you
I
kind
came
of
across
know?
like the corporate psycho because I'm like the numbers, lads. And you
You're
know,
probably the best person for it though as well, you know, with the background that you had
but
going into something like that.
and maybe that's my next tip. Like culture is just so important. Like culture trumps strategy
Yes.
every time. So you could have the most amazing strategy and you've all these outcomes and KPIs, but if the culture, if the people aren't behind
The
the
mission,
view,
the
the mission, the
values.
vision, like it's just going to completely fail. So, so yeah, a lot of, and the fact that we have this fund, we're so fortunate, but we are drawing down too much on that fund year on year. So unless we can turn it around commercially, we will have to shut up shop.
Yeah.
Basically. So that means looking at everything from getting more day visitors, getting more sponsors, more events, more weddings, all ideas on the table, and is where we're at the moment. But that's hard. There's so many other places for people
Yeah,
to
a lot
go
of
in Dublin.
competition,
So how do we get ahead of the competition?
I loved the story about the two ladies. I think me and Claire met at a social event there, and we just got chatting. And again, I'll put my hands up. I didn't hear of Airfield, so very grateful that you're here, so we can shine the light on Airfield, and we'll talk a bit more about your community incentives and all the really, really good things that you're doing. But you told me the story about the two ladies. I want to know what their background was, and I want you just to tell the story about their car.
Yeah. So
Car collector.
their dad, Trevor was a very successful solicitor here in Dublin, and they lived on Ely Place, and there was essentially a second sister who was born, and you have to imagine like Dublin at this time,
Yeah,
the climate, all of
yeah.
that. So the mom actually came across Airfield. The Jury family owned it at the time, and so it was bought kind of as a bit of a country retreat, a bit of a place for a holiday. But actually, they kind of realised over time, the climate was so much better outside of the city. It was in the countryside. So they moved out there. And sadly, the second sister, Constance, died. And then 20 years later, a third sister was born. So 20 years between the two sisters. So like massive. And it was really their mum then, Lily was all about supporting the local community and giving back. So she kind of instilled that ethos in them. Trevor's brother, he set up the Indian Stock Exchange. He too never married. So when he died, he left the equivalent of €5 million to the sisters.
Wow. Okay.
So that, and then the other thing that Trevor did, which was so interesting, is that he left the estate to the women, not to a random male heir. Like Downton Abbey, the random
Well,
cousin that turns
It
up.
still happens these days, yeah.
So he left it to the women, to his wife initially, and then to his daughters. Unheard of.
Yeah.
So they then were very fortunate. They did some amazing things. They gave the land that the Laura Lynn is built on in Leopardstown.
Wow.
They were really involved in St. John's Ambulance, because you have to remember this was kind of over, spanning the two world wars. They would have taken soldiers in. They were really into farming and food, so it was them who set up, the Jersey herd that we still have today. They would have. And the reason we know so much about them is they kept every little receipt, docket, conference program, whatever. And there's 25,000 documents in Castletown House.
Wow.
So their diaries, everything, which is amazing. So when obviously they lived in Airfield their whole entire lives, and their two passions were travel. So they did mad traveling, and cars, and they absolutely love cars. And we still to this day have a vintage 1927 Rolls-Royce, fully taxed, fully insured. We take it on spins, we bring it to wedding fairs.
Where did you park it today?
Literally, and it's I had this notion that I'd be like in the St. Patrick's Day parade, rocking it with my beautiful Rolls-Royce, and I was kind of told, now Claire, like the brakes, to be running over some majorette or taking somebody out, some band out or something. But but at that time, once again, like Downton Abbey, you had to, if you had a Rolls, you had to have a driver or a mechanic, and the lady said no way, and off they went over to the UK and they trained
To be mechanics.
Yeah, so they could. So it's a one lady owner. It'll soon celebrate its 100th birthday, and the only other one of its age is in Oris and Uachtaráin, and that was De Valera's Rolls. So
amazing.
it's really special, really special. But
Talk about rich in history.
oh, completely. And then for us, having the archive is fantastic. But I do feel kind of the weight of their legacy. Like they wanted this land to be left to the public, and we have to keep it going and make sure that it's continues to be there for like future generations. So a lot of focus on my team, as we said, you know, from a charity point of view, running it as a business.
Yeah. But you are as a, and then the incentive, like the community, you're very heavily based in the community, like they were. You're still running the farm. So, tell me about the farm as a Dublin man. Apologies to anybody listening that understands farms. What cattle is it? Cattle? Did you have sheep?
Yeah.
Like what?
So-
I want to visualize.
Yeah,
the
what's
farm.
on the farm?
Yeah, tell
So
us.
for everyone, it's not a petting zoo, and we're really clear about that.
Yeah.
It is a
I
work.
thought you might have one.
No, we're super clear about that. It is a working farm.
Okay.
So we are milking. We have a Jersey herd. We're milking every day. It's about 17,000 litres, which all go into the restaurant for your cappuccino. So beautiful Jersey milk. We have 140 new chickens that arrived a few weeks ago. We'll be letting them free on the 14th of August. So we've chickens, we've pigs, we've donkeys. We have a very sad goat, but she's better on her own apparently. I'm like, could not be putting something in with her. But it's run like an atypical farm. You know, we've a herd number.
Okay.
But so the biggest attraction is milking. Happens every day, and the public are literally pressed up against, dying to see what happens. But also for us, particularly now, we see our role being kind of bridging that urban-rural divide.
Yeah.
The disconnect with people and where their food comes from is now so massive. So I tell the story of the kid who was on our school tour. We did about 12,000 kids come on their school tour, and she was standing in front of the chickens, and she was like, "Can you cook that?" So the disconnect between that chicken and her chicken nuggets are now so massive that people they think milk comes from
the shop.
Yes.
The other program that we won, which is just fantastic, is called Farmer Time. So we have 100 farmers around the country, twinned with 100 schools. So it's the same farmer twinned with the class all academic year.
Okay.
Every 2 weeks, the farmer beams into the class on his phone, has a little chat, what's going on the farm. For most children, it'll be the only farmer they will ever meet.
Yeah.
For the farmer, and farmers are getting so much stick about their impact on the planet, it's them talking to consumers of the future.
Yeah.
And so when these kids grow up and they're hearing this, hearing about farming, that they'll be like, actually, Farmer John's farm wasn't like that at all.
Yeah.
So, but aside from that, like lovely, the kids are so connected to the farmer. One of them was getting married last summer. The kids were like, I'd say we'll be invited to the wedding. We're best friends. And then the kids the cows they were doing TB testing, and the kids were like, oh, it sounds serious. It sounds like COVID. I hope they're okay. And then a few weeks ago, at school in Tala, the teacher was saying this little boy from Poland who'd been in school like all year, and he'd never spoken in the class. And he put up his hand to ask a question to the farmer a couple of weeks ago. It was the first time he'd ever spoken, and it turns out he was from a farm in Poland. So I think like the impact has been amazing of that program.
So how many? What's the team that manage the farm?
So in terms of Airfield, we've 50 staff. That's a real mixed bag. That is, farm managers. We have beautiful gardens, so garden team. We have then, like any organisation, finance, HR. And then we have, education guides. We also, when I joined, so I report into a board, and the board were like, "Oh, Claire, now get a few youngsters on the board. We're all ancient." And I said no. So we set up our first Airfield Youth Board. So that's 12 young people from around the country. They're amazing.
Wow,
they're amazing.
Brilliant.
Their job is to bring a youth voice to our decisions. So to help us when we're planning to make us, because we're not going to be around.
Yeah, future-proof.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we have a youth activism officer who looks after them and makes sure, that their board meetings happen. She was selected by the Department of Ag to represent Ireland at the World Food Forum in Rome last October.
Wow.
And on the back of that, Airfield will host the National Youth Food Summit in a couple of weeks' time. So big piece for us around young people's engagement with food and how can we support the future generations, 'cause we're not going to be here. So real
amazing.
mixed bag of
Very-
roles. Yeah,
Very
totally
interesting,
different.
very active, and I think you had another initiative in regards to getting people in and giving them jobs and trying to train them up and then
Yeah, is
bring
there
them.
cooking courses maybe?
Yeah.
or something like
Yeah,
that,
we've a.
What don't you do, Claire?
No, yeah, it's like running a small town now at this stage. We have a cookery school, a beautiful cookery school. So we do classes and courses. That could be anything from parent and child, summer camps, date nights, bread making, and then we also we've been working for a couple of years with an organisation called Walk in Walkinstown. This is for people who have educational challenges, and we bring them to Airfield to work with us alongside the farmer gardeners in the restaurant for 6 months. And on the back of that, then, you know, people have gone on to jobs on Post and Amazon in the hospitality sector. So things like that are super important to us, giving people an opportunity. And also we do things like we have a community garden, so we have people who volunteer to work on that, and you know, we have a couple of people in direct provision who are literally hanging around all week. These people are landscapers, gardeners who've moved here from different like amazing talented people who then come and help us and work on the community garden. So
You wouldn't get an opportunity anywhere else, really. Do you know what I mean? And because obviously they come from where they come from, but those people are very talented as well. You know, there's a huge,
100%.
there's an abundance of talent, I think, in Ireland. But are we getting the right people, or are we just kind of looking over these people because of their background or where they come from and stuff like that? So
But
that's
even
great to hear.
just from like a real world perspective, like for younger kids, like it's brilliant. Get the foot in the door, see what the real world's all about, and then kind of take that skill set and move it outside.
and end up getting a job, you know, out of it. Like
That's brilliant.
that they never thought they would end up in the workforce. So this, you know, it's really fantastic. But for a lot of these, as you can imagine, it's really start us thinking about kind of, you know, what's next, where do we see Airfield going, and you know, we are first and foremost a visitor attraction. That's what we're about, getting people through the gates. But we're now looking at, you know, and we've just had a series of summer festivals. We have one focused on nature and biodiversity coming up on the 16th of August. So you're, you know, constantly thinking about, right, what can we put on that would bring people? We had an amazing weekend aimed at young people called Appetite, and it lashed rain and the Lewis wasn't working.
Oh no.
And the stuff, you know, as much as you can plan, and we had comedians and cookery and so many fab things going on, and then on the day,
We're based in Ireland.
we are.
Yes.
We are. There's nothing we can do. You know, we're doing constant things trying to get the word out there. But I still meet people like yourself, Dara, who are like, never even knew you were there.
And that's the sad
Yeah,
thing.
I didn't.
Up the
It's
road
sad.
from Dundrum. 18 million people are going to Dundrum Shopping Centre.
Yeah.
And we're like 2 minutes up the road.
How many weddings a year would you guys do?
So we started off this year with 9. We've ended up with 23.
Wow.
Okay,
What
brilliant.
we've realised is there's a lovely market for people who only want about 50.
Yeah.
And they're not worried about staying over. Like, you can't stay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also it's so beautiful. Like, imagine old house, you know, walled
photographs,
garden,
Gorgeous, I'd say.
where you have the ceremony, then the drinks and the nibbles, and then you go back into the house for the dinner and the band. So it's a beautiful venue, like in Dublin.
Yes.
Yeah, because I had a photo booth business before COVID, and like I've never been to Airfield Estate, I don't think, for a wedding. So
Yeah. Yeah. No,
And
so,
it's quite
Like, I'm
interesting.
spreading the word. I've said to my family, I've said to my friend. One of my friends works for Toast, and I've seen Toast
Yeah,
actually done the
they're
donation,
brilliant.
which is as well.
Yeah,
so
they're amazing.
yes,
yeah, they're a fantastic company. That
yes,
that just worked like a dream. And it's, I suppose that's one of the challenges is working as a charity, working with companies. There has to be the right fit. Like,
Yeah.
you have to have the same values. They fund community gardens in the US. We wanted to do a community garden. They had a checkbook,
Yeah, let's make it happen.
and it's been a fantastic collaboration. So
So as a CEO, obviously all the fun and games, but as a CEO, I'd say it can be difficult to run a business, as you said, standing on the shoulders of those two great ladies. I would imagine kind of COVID as well kind of had implications on the food and the farm maybe even. So how are you finding now in your role as CEO of Airfield Estate? Is there any challenges that you've had to overcome, or?
yeah, so I joined coming out of COVID. So and the challenges with kind of rebuilding a team, a culture. People had been there for a long time. And taking an organization through that process of change. I suppose one of my big eye openers was, you know, in Danone, there would be a restructure every 5 minutes and people would be made redundant. It's really sad, but unfortunately. And so coming into a charity and taking them through that process was a very different experience than what I expected, and all of the sensitivities that go with it. So that's taken a long time to kind of get everyone through. And then the classic things of, you know, the people who are left behind have survivor's guilt, all of that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, everyone said to me, it's a lonely place at the top. And I was like, yeah, but I'm great crack and I won't be lonely. And people come and talk to me. You know, my mother, God rest her, her motto was no regrets, like no regrets.
Yeah.
But I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
There's a book in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Book in it.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Would you recommend, like, to someone that's aspiring to be a CEO or thinks they want to be a CEO, would you recommend it as a job? Like,
I think you also have to acknowledge that there's nothing wrong with being a very good number two.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's not for everyone.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with being a very good number
Yeah.
two. But yeah, I probably took the decision too lightly.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I thought I'd be swanning
Yeah,
around
of
drinking
course.
gin
In
the
the
Walmart.
the Rolls Royce.
On the Rolls-Royce.
Yeah.
When taking in an organisation through change is
Yeah.
extremely difficult.
So if you could go back to Claire, probably you're in Airfield 2.5 years. If you go back to Claire maybe 2 or 3 years ago, what advice would you give Claire then?
Patience. Sure, listen, I had come from such,
Fast,
FMCG,
fast. Yes.
that's why it's called FMCG.
Yes.
And so it's about having a lot of patience.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to work on that.
Yeah, because I came from a very, like, in my role now in National College of Ireland, I came from recruitment, temporary recruitment, every day, new day, every day, this, and it was just, you were kind of just catching yourself every day and you take a breath when you finish. And then I went into education and just take everyone's just easy breezy. And I'm like, let's do this. We want to change overnight. And I'd even say to myself as well, just go with the flow.
Yeah.
Just take your time with it, because I came from such a fast-paced environment and then going into a very slow environment, you kind of feel like, oh, I should be doing something,
Yeah, and definitely, like, you need people to trust you, and building that trust as well as the CEO takes an awfully long time as well, kind of longer than I thought it would. So I'll be thinking carefully again
Well,
about the next
I
move.
did see you were a business person of August 2023 last year on News Talk. So congratulations
was,
on the
thank you very
accolades.
much.
Congratulations.
Yes. So you must be doing
We
something.
love an award in Airfield. We've won many in the past while. So yeah, I mean, I also think one of my bigger challenges before I moved to Airfield, I was working for Danone and I was appointed to the board of Safe Food. They had put an advert out, as they do. I suppose I thought, my background's nutrition. I've spent many years in the UK, throw my hat in the ring. Yeah. And then over a period of a number of weeks, the Sunday Times ran articles about me, calling for me to stand down.
Oh.
That I worked for a nasty infant formula company. My picture, the second week, there was 15 GPs calling for me to stand down.
No way.
And I suppose I had focused so much on brand's reputation, but how important your own personal reputation is.
Yeah.
And I was interviewing for the Airfield job at the time, and I was there to my husband, like, there's no way they're going to give it to me because I'm trouble.
Buying up all the newspapers,
the media all over you.
And I remembered the lovely recruiter who was managing the process for Airfield of finding a CEO. I talked to her about it, and she was like, Claire, this is an amazing story about personal brand and how you've gotten through it. And now in the end, I didn't stand down. I would have never have stood down. And Safe Food were super supportive, and I just finished a 3-year term. But like, nobody joins a board to expect to end up in the papers. You join a board because you want to give back and you've expertise. But that was a really good lesson on your own, like my own kind of personal brand.
Yeah.
So,
And you live to tell the tale. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't buy the Sunday Times anymore.
What's the world of recruitment like at the moment? So obviously, I'm not saying you have vacancies, but say when you look at people coming through your doors, or what's your sort of vision of? I know there's a lot of talk about skills first hiring, about people that just have either transferable skills or if they're a culture fit. What's your sort of mantra around recruitment?
I'm terrible for the culture fit vibe, and in a really, and I have to, the way
I don't believe in it really either.
Well, I don't know, like,
Really? The culture fit one?
But
making your mind up about somebody after about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
No.
No, but I mean, like, if someone says, and you get it a lot in recruitment where people say they're just not the right fit, and I just don't think you can really base that on somebody after meeting them in an interview. You can base it on 6 or 12 months in the role, but I just think, how can you know if they're a culture fit if they're not in your culture? That's my view on it.
Oh.
Wow. I think certainly for somewhere like Airfield.
Yeah. Would you know in the first 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Yeah.
I know if I'm speaking to someone on the phone, I know they're going to get the job or they're not going to get the job.
No, I
Even before
understand
you
getting the
interview them.
vibe from someone, but
Yeah.
like saying that they're not going to be like, say, I understand values and you know, people that have the same sort of mantra as yourself. But again, once you get them into the job, you can't really base that off. I personally think, because I've seen so many people come through doors
Yeah.
that give a great interview, they get in, they give a great 12 weeks, and then all of that just kind of declines. Maybe I'm just
No, I think you're
It's
right in a
cynical.
sense, right? But I think you'll never know how good someone is going to actually be until they start the job.
Yeah.
But the main thing is that you have to get on with that person and want to teach them. Like, if they're like an idiot, let's
Yeah.
just be nice about it. You're not going to want to show them how to do their job if they're just going to cause you grief. So you want to get on with them and make sure that if they can get on with you, then they can get on with everyone else on the team.
So we're very fortunate at Airfield. We have a coach
oh
who is helping us come together as a high performing leadership team. It would be really common in multinationals that people would get coach, have coaching along the way, or a leadership team would be working with a coach. And I suppose I was kind of keen to bring that kind of expertise, because as much as I am leading them, like the dynamic, like I'm not an expert
Yeah.
in any of this
Yeah.
side of things. So yeah, we've been working with a coach probably for about the past 18 months. Particularly as so many new people have been joining the leadership team, like how do we work together, but also spending time on looking at, personality traits, saboteurs, all of that space.
Yeah.
To see. The other big challenge for me is recruiting people who are just like me.
yeah.
You have to avoid that then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, who love the crack and are, all about jazz hands.
Yeah. Rolls-Royces.
And you can't have a team
No.
like that.
Yeah.
And a good friend who works in HR showed me this mad piece of software, right, that looks at you, analyzes your social media engagement and plots you on a personality wheel.
Oh,
Right.
what's the name of this software?
I can't remember. It was mad, right? So he was helping us recruit a role, and so he had plotted the candidates and me.
Wow.
And he was like, now, Claire, look, you can see those three are all like you. And then, there's like, but don't be dissing that other person. It
Yes.
was mad.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So obviously, that's what the big companies
Yes.
are using.
Yeah.
But it is, you can't have everyone
No.
being the same.
There's a book I was reading. It's a guy called Sean Weaver. He's a leadership management coach and sales coach or whatever. But he talks about everyone's like a different color, and making sure that you don't have everyone on the same team that's like the same color. So you could be red, green, or yellow.
Yeah.
And each color is associated to a different personality trait. So this is obviously bringing it to the next level now.
Yeah. Because you have that, isn't it? The fire, and there's different
Yeah.
energies
Yeah,
and stuff as well.
Insights is one that we would have used, which is that colour. And certainly what we would have used in Danone. So I would be yellow red, and as my husband likes to say, yeah, she's grey crack, and then she instantly wants to kill you, like instantly. But like that, the whole point of it then is appreciating particularly how you communicate with other people. So like I don't have time for data. Like I'm not interested in the detail. I just like, lads, give me the 3 messages.
Yeah.
And so it's learning. For me, like if somebody's coming to talk to me about something, like she's only going to want the top line. Like don't be bringing her the numbers. As opposed to somebody who, so then it's all about flexing your style then to
different people.
communicate with different people. I think that's so important.
Yeah.
I wish I knew that 20 years ago.
Yeah. How do you manage difficult conversations in the workplace? Say if you had to have a difficult conversation with someone that was on maybe your leadership team, or how do you, not saying do you prep beforehand, or what? How do you deliver that difficult news, or maybe constructive news?
I'm very fortunate. I have an amazing HR.
Just pass it down. It's not my problem.
Not for me.
Not for me. I suppose I'm probably the red energy. Like I'm very direct. It's come back to bite me.
Yeah.
So I think now more than ever, I do have to prepare. I think especially working for Airfield, everybody wants the best.
Yeah.
We all do, but there has been a lot of very difficult conversations over the past 2.5 years. And look, I'd say I still have a lot to learn.
Yeah.
But just straight to the forward, direct and point, and there's no frills.
I'd be the same.
And
straight.
that really doesn't land with some people.
I understand. Yeah.
I think sometimes they're better off here in the street, even
Yeah.
if they don't like it.
Yeah.
And you can get the job done much quicker, or you get to the end goal. You're just direct about it. I would never like dance around something like I
Yeah.
love to straight
Well,
by the book.
I think it's a good sign of character if you can have a difficult conversation, say, with your top performer, and you can have the same difficult conversation with somebody else. You know, everyone's the same, and you just have your one line of communication.
Sometimes I would actually avoid it rather than
It can be.
because I know how blunt I'll be. So I probably avoid it sometimes. I don't know. Would you be the same?
Yeah,
No?
I think what we've tried to do is certainly from people's performance is, and this is also the learnings from the multinationals, like really clear objectives for the year, you know, regular catch-ups, metrics,
Yeah.
so that people aren't, if they're not delivering on something, it's not a shock.
Yeah.
You know, they know themselves, you know, but like it's, look, the work is easy, it's the people, it's the challenge. It's always going to be that way.
Yeah, your human assets are your greatest assets and your
So,
worst ones.
You're obviously a CEO now. When you were going through your journey, your work journey, were you just good at what you done that made you get to the next level, or did you set personal goals for yourself to say, were you determined, say, I want to keep on progressing, or say if someone's in a role right now and you know you're just naturally good and you get a promotion, and you're naturally good, you get a promotion, were you doing that, or were you setting goals and targets for yourself?
So I knew I wanted to have this kind of corporate affairs role, having met the guy at Kellogg's. But then I did, when I got there and did it in Danone, I was kind of like, geez, like for the first time ever, I didn't know what I wanted to do next. And it was just really fortunate that the role in Airfield came up. My husband likes, I never thought I'd be a CEO. Like I kind of, you know, knew I
Maybe
wanted.
someday kind of thing.
Never in a million,
No.
but Chris would say,
Yeah.
she's the Great White Hope, lads. Yeah, it's all on her. I suppose, you know, it's, I have worked with some amazing CEOs, some shocking CEOs, and but I never thought I'd do it. As I said, it's been a massive challenge. I'm really glad that, you know, I'm getting there. But no, I wasn't that structured. What I do think now, though, and certainly when we're seeing CVs, is we really like people who have, they have a career trajectory, but they've also done different things outside of their day job. Like lads, board match, they're crying out for charities, are crying out for people to join their boards.
Yes.
Having something like that on your CV, I think really makes a difference.
I was just going to actually ask you earlier on about board. Would you call it boardship? I don't know what you call it, or getting onto boards.
Yeah,
Getting onto
board
board
match is a
Board
website.
match,
Yeah.
is it?
So all
You
of the
can go onto the
charities
board of the charity.
advertise on
Okay.
that. So really good example. We've been thinking about our marketing recently. We have a finance committee, volunteers, amazing people. We have an education and research committee, amazing people on that. And I was like, well, lads, why don't we have a marketing committee? You know, this town is full of amazing marketeers. Why don't we put it up on board match and see? And we have gotten 5 amazing business people.
That's brilliant.
And there was another 15 behind them who had applied, you know. So, and these are people who have full-time day jobs, marketing directors, managing directors, that want to give back. And so I think that's for people thinking about their CV, it's the ability to have shown other development of other skills by being on a board outside of your day job, I think is really worth
And
considering.
what's the, say if someone wants to get onto a board, what's either the journey to get there, and then when you get there, what's the role like? Is it, do you have to take time out of your day? Is it advisory, or what's the sort of environment like?
Yeah, so ours would be all advisory, not paid, 4 times a year. I would say post RTE, you know, boards, they have a bit of a negative connotation at the moment.
Yeah.
And that's a very different, you know, that's a semi-state body. It's a very different type of board. But as opposed to being on a board on like a local charity, now charities are super regulated, but for the process is like for most charities like ourselves, the ad goes up on board match, you apply, you know, we interviewed people, and as I said, we've ended up with 5 amazing people. But also, like, I'm sitting there looking at these people who all have day jobs going like, you are so busy. Like, why do you want to do it? Like, so I do think people want to get to a certain stage where they do want to give back.
Yeah.
But don't be
for
waiting
yourself.
until you're 40. In your 40s.
Understand.
You know, do
Start
it
early.
younger. Like,
Yeah.
if you were a little charity and you're struggling with your marketing or communications, and you have somebody in their 20s who's doing this for a brand, like you'd love to have them on your board.
Yeah.
You absolutely would.
Because you get the insights of what's going on
Yeah.
now, and you get the trends,
Yeah.
and like especially I'm grateful for being in recruitment because I understand the recruitment game, whereas some companies don't really have that recruiter or in-house or HR that might need somebody to advise them on. So, good tip for anybody that's looking to build their CV and just maybe help
Yeah.
out again and get back to the community again. That community piece is great.
Might have a look into it myself.
Yeah, me
Yeah.
too.
A good experience maybe
Yeah.
to grow. All right, Grant.
What's next for Airfield? So what's the plan?
Santa.
Yes.
So
Actually, if I can give
Already.
if I could give Airfield a shout out, though you said you have like vouchers and you have your restaurant and you have that people could buy for a loved one for Christmas, could
exactly, gift cards.
Okay.
Yeah. So we had Santa at Airfield for many years, and we took a break last year for a couple of reasons. Being most blunt, it wasn't making enough money.
they? Okay.
And it means, shutting down the whole estate, like building a movie set.
Yeah.
So we decided that if we were going to do it, it needed to make more money, and also we wanted it to be more sustainable. So we had a great year of kind of looking to see what everyone else is doing in other countries, trying to come up with ideas. And so Santa will be back at Airfield from late November, and the tickets will go on sale. I know it sounds mad, but they always do, the end of August, beginning of September. What we realised is like market segmentation, like there's people who their baby is small, they just want in and out in a photo.
Yeah.
That's all they
Fair.
want. There's people who, they might have toddlers, they'd like, to kill an hour or so. And then there's people who want to be there for the whole afternoon. They want to walk around the estate. They want to, do an activity, soak up the atmosphere. So we will have 3 different types of Santas aimed at those audiences. So that's a big focus for us. Then I suppose what I felt in the 10 years the last 10 years, the county councils have invested really heavily in playgrounds in Dublin. So like if you are living in South Dublin, you're like, why would I pay into Airfield when I can go to Marley Park, amazing playground, beautiful wall garden, coffee, I can go around on my scooter. Yeah. What does Airfield have to offer that's different? And it's clearly the farm. Yeah. So it's really now thinking about, how do we develop that? So for example, we just got a lovely grant for an egg vending machine. So you'll be able to drive up, even before you pay, you won't have to pay a ticket. We'll have a vending machine where you can go in, put your money and get, 6 fresh eggs that are literally, the carbon footprint is 0 because they've come from there.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
That's really an egg.
Egg vending.
That's
So
completely
we'll
different.
hopefully have that come January. So it's really trying to think about, I think it's the farm.
Yeah.
And what can we do with it, and how can we bring it to life? And then, as I said, it's about kind of coming up with other ideas of programming and events and activities. There's nothing we can do about the weather, so you just have to go work with it. So we'll have a big Halloween festival. We did some scarecrow building last year, and it was out the door. And one of the reasons it was so popular is that families came with Nana and the kids and the teens, and they all got involved. So coming up with ideas that will bring people through the gates.
And you use 365. You use it open every day, or do
We
you
shut down between Christmas and New Year.
Fair.
And outside of the school holidays, we don't open on a Monday. The restaurant is open, but the estate isn't. And that's because it's a working farm and gardens, the lads just need one day where they can take out the big machinery and not kill somebody.
Yeah,
so they
true.
need one day that the public aren't.
And tell me about the actual cookery course, because I love cooking. So what's the what's the cookery course like? Do you go in? Is there? Because I'm even thinking now for Christmas, I'd love to send my sister there because she can't cook, and I want her to cook for me
Yeah, she'll love it.
because I'm always cooking for her.
It's the Neff Inspiration Kitchen. So it's 12 ovens, 12 hobs. It's like a demonstration kitchen. So there's like a space at the top for Chef Lisa to do her thing, and then but everyone's cooking with her. She's kind of showing.
It's kind of like home economics.
It is, and so and the classes really vary. We're always looking for new ideas of topics to cover. It's totally random what sells and what doesn't sell. Like we think we have a great idea. Like we did one about batch cooking. We thought it was a fantastic idea, and it just didn't sell. So it's about trying to come up with things. The date night one has been super popular and really different for us because it's obviously an evening thing. And obviously now, coming up to Christmas, we'll be doing plenty of kind of Christmas themed type ones and cooking with the kids
and all the food come from the farm.
As much as possible.
you can.
So we grow. We've had 3 acres of the 38 growing our own fruit and veg.
Fabulous.
All of that is used in the restaurant. And so there's a lovely relationship between Isabel, the head chef, and Gavin, the head gardener. Like, they need to be planning 6 to 9 months in advance about what to plant that will sell.
Be ready.
That will be ready,
Yeah.
but that people will eat,
Yeah.
you know. So coming up, then Isabel coming up with menus and dishes that she knows people will buy. And then, like wherever possible, we use the fruit and veg in the cookery classes, you know, even if it's herbs and that we've grown. So a lot of it is about people. We would hope that they might then go home and even try and plant something small, you know, themselves.
And can they buy from the farm? Can they go up and buy their fruit or veg from you? That might be
Not at the moment, because it's all used in the restaurant.
Okay.
Our hope would be that, so we have a farmers market on a Friday and Saturday. That's other local farmers sell their produce, and we would hope, you know, certainly with the eggs, for example, and the new chickens, we're going to have 600 eggs a week. So you know, we hope to be selling them. The milk from the Jersey cows is for sale in the restaurant. But our hope would be over time, you know, that we would have extra veg to sell.
Amazing.
The markup probably obviously higher in the kitchen, so there's no. I wouldn't say do we need to sell.
Well,
you
also
could just get people through the door. So, like, if there was a fresh farmers market on my doorstep, I'd be popping up and getting me carrots and me onions and whatever that you were selling.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big message for people. As much as I think about the nutrition, it is also about shopping local and eating in season, and especially supporting our Irish farmers. You know, local and seasonal.
I think that educational piece though is what I've learned on my cooking journey, or just learning about food, about seasonal and what's good. I think it's just understanding the food, like you've been saying, creating that kind of connection again back to where the food is and what the food is. I think is very important for people to understand where their food comes from and when to eat it as well. Because, you know, I could be buying strawberries in December and it's not helping the environment really.
Yeah, and it's also about when you see the strawberries now at the moment that you buy the Wexford ones.
Yes, yeah.
I know, it's super important that we're supporting our own farmers. So loads going on. Never a dull moment. A lot happening. But yeah, the place is very precious, and I suppose our dream, and when I joined the board, were super clear. You know, they wanted us to continue to be a visitor attraction, but they wanted us to go outside of the four walls and really bring about change. That, you know, every city should have an airfield. And we know there's a lot of conversations in Brussels going on about urban farms and city farms, and lads, we've been doing it for over 100 years, so we know what works.
Microgreens, I think, is really big at the moment. It's really taken off, like growing herbs in containers and things like that. Like, it's huge in America, actually. People selling to like the local grocery shops, making good money, actually.
Yeah, and that's something that's so simple that you could be doing on your
do it.
balcony. You don't need massive garden, you know. And I think that's what we really want is for people to try.
I wanted to ask, obviously, you're a very successful CEO, fantastic career in multinational corporations. What's the leader, Claire, like at home? I know you've got two
Asking
kids.
the wrong person.
Completely different.
Does the CEO hat come off when?
Well, I'm told quite regularly to take it off. So,
how's the business at home?
I've been with Chris for 23 years. He works for Flutter.com. So we like to say in our house, I'm the ethical one. He's the one working for another big multinational. Sport is our lives, and I hate sport. And for those people who know me, like, I'm tall, but I, you know, absolutely hate sport. But Chris is extremely sporty, and I have two teenage children, Tom and Leah. It's all about sport as far as they're concerned, particularly soccer. So yeah, a lot of. But I would say we're all, and it was one of the most important things to me with the kids is we are a foodie family, and I do think the biggest window is when you're weaning a baby. So if you wean a baby onto rubbish processed food, it's extremely, like, tastes are set. So I remember, like, in Egypt now, puree and everything, you know, getting them to try this. And I was living in Cambridge and I thought it was the bomb. And now Tom, my son, you couldn't pay Tom to eat fruit.
No.
Okay.
Yes.
So, but we, like, you know, we love food. We love, you know, trying new things and traveling, and so yeah. But there's a lot of
there's no boardroom meetings at the kitchen table, is there?
There probably is the all the time.
Yeah, there'd be a few raised voices. Anyone with teenage children would know that. But no, and I think about it particularly with my daughter. You know, like your biggest ambition is that you will raise children
Yeah.
and set them up for success, and it's about kind of exposing them to all different things. I can see sometimes when they're like raising their eyes down, and there she goes now, CEO of Airfield, or spouting about the nutrition. But yeah, look, they are an amazing pair, but I also think about them going for an interview.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like,
How do
Would you worry about
I was just going to, would you give any tips or tricks to
um,
the kiddos out there?
I'm one of my objectives for the year. There was a piece of research that talked about the people who are struggling most with resilience at work is women under the age of 30.
Okay.
It came out of the Resilience Institute in Switzerland. And I'm obsessed with this age group because I was a woman under 30 trying to set up a career, trying to, like young family. And so I suppose I really think about, what do we need to set up, young women for success? Are we expecting too much of them? And how just to kind of manage expectations, because that dreaded question when you interview people and you do that, what do you want to be in 5 years, and they say the CEO, and they're like 23, and you're like, listen, mate,
Claire, calm down, Claire.
really, I love that that the eagerness, but
Yeah.
managing everyone's expectation
Yeah.
a little bit, and but making sure that the people are heard in work, and that they get to contribute. It's a real juggle, I think.
And it's hard when you go straight in. Like I work with the apprenticeships, and it's great because the apprenticeships gives them the opportunity to go into full-time work, which some of these school leavers have never worked before. Now it's a different generation to me. The minute I turned 16, I was kicked out the door and straight up to interviewing into Next to do a sales job. But it's not like that these days. I think they're more focused on their education, so you don't have that work ethic, or you don't realise what it's like to walk into an office. But then to marry the education piece as well is pretty good, because they get best of both worlds.
But I think everyone should work in retail or
hospitality.
Yeah, hospitality, I think, is the biggest
I
one.
think you have such a different view of the world if
100%.
you've done a stint.
Yeah.
You just respect as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in terms of like going forward, like just for someone that wanted to like get into your industry, or like whether it's PR or like nutrition, what courses would you recommend they kind of look at?
Yeah, so nutrition is an interesting one because you have nutritionists, you have dietitians, and you have nutritional therapists.
Okay.
And so there's all different types of qualifications depending on which one you pick. The biggest difference is a dietitian can work in a hospital and also give people kind of one-on-one advice. They've done that side of it. While a nutritionist, they can't work in those. Certainly, there will be very strict guidelines on who can work in a hospital giving that kind of advice.
Yeah.
There's way more courses than ever before. I would be, and I'm very proud, nutrition snob. I struggle with the people who do a 6-week course and call themselves a nutritional therapist when I've done 6 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and it's the same in other sectors. But I like, if I had my time over again, I'd still do it. I think it's such an interesting area to be in. There's loads of opportunities, whether you end up working in industry or working in, the hospital setting, or in communications roles. Like there's loads of opportunities. I think especially in Ireland, like we're such a food and agri nation. They're always looking for people in that sector who have nutrition as kind of a basic degree. I would have definitely done.
I've seen an interesting stat yesterday that Ireland is in the top 10 biggest exporters of ice cream in Europe. Would you ever have got that?
Well, we overproduce milk, don't we?
Yeah, but we export ice cream. We're the top 10 ice cream exporters in Europe, which I never would have thought that.
All dairy.
I know
lads.
beef is amazing for us, but
but
dairy,
that's where the infant formula industry came from in Ireland. We had all of this extra milk that was being produced, and so it was how could we add value. It's the same with the whey, sports nutrition, all of that side of it. They're all byproducts of the dairy industry. So,
and I think especially with the fitness, people training and gym, and that all then leads back into nutrition. So you have all these new trainers that are giving the nutritional dietary things. And what's your thoughts actually on, have you seen these food deliveries that send you the meals per week?
Oh, yeah.
I haven't got them, but what's your thoughts on them?
I also haven't got them. I get it, for a certain type of person who's super busy and the calories are controlled. I'd say it's expensive.
Yeah.
I think, there's a lot easier ways to cheaper on your wallet to do it, but as I
100%.
said at the very beginning, it's about being organized
Yeah.
and getting and you see all these reels that keep coming up on my feed now about people prepping for the week
Mm-hmm.
and different recipes, like some like really nice stuff,
Yeah.
So I think you could do it yourself at home, a
Yeah.
lot cheaper if you just were
Lot
organized
nicer as well.
and a lot nicer.
Just
yeah.
go to Airfield to do your cookery class first, and then
Exactly,
do your meal
exactly,
prep.
Exactly.
And, do you have your quick fire
Yeah,
questions?
we have a little tradition, Claire, and it's a quick fire round. Did you want to talk about anything else around before we wrap up?
have
Is
it.
there-
No,
Would you like
I'll only end with my mother's 3 tips. Smile at the people. Don't let the bastards get you down, because there will be plenty of bastards. Sorry, you might have to bleep that out.
No, you're okay.
And do your best. Look, that's
Love it.
all that we're trying to do. So yeah, keep going.
What wise words from your mother?
Exactly.
Fantastic.
They're very wise, right?
So, Claire, just for a quick fire round. So, obviously, with nutrition in my mind, I wanted to ask you fruit or veg, if you had to pick one,
Fruit.
and what would be your favorite?
Oh my God.
Too many.
Strawberries.
Strawberries,
Yeah.
lovely. From where?
Wexford.
There
of
we
course.
go. What's your favorite sandwich filling?
Tuna and sweet corn.
Lovely. What's now? It's not on the nutritional side, but do you have a favorite decade of music?
Oh, I'm a 90s darling.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What's
100%.
the top hits from the 90s that get you? If you're at, say, at a wedding and you hear something on, you're like, oh, I'm getting up to dance.
Oh, I'm like a bit of Kylie, Texas. I still love
Yes.
Texas.
good shout.
Seen them many times. Yeah, they would kind of be the kind of
90s tunes are good.
Yeah.
If you could pick one female from history, alive or dead at the moment, to have dinner with, who would it be? Any inspirational women out there?
Oh my God. Can't believe you didn't give me these in advance, and
I'm
I could have
sorry.
really had to think about
It's the
them.
quick fire.
Okay, let me think about that one in a minute. I'll
Yeah,
come back to it.
Okay.
Okay, well, the next
One of the
one's-
girls from Airfield.
Yeah, Chef Lisa. Well, obviously with the Olympics at the moment, if you could win an Olympic medal in any category, what would it be? Now, actually, I'm kind of regretting we said this because you don't like sport.
Yeah, like, if I'd be much more of a master chef kind of person. Like, if I
Okay,
could, for win an Olympic medal for my shoe pastry, I'd be all over it.
So then I'll change it up. Say you were on Come Dine With Me.
Yeah.
What would you make us on Come Dine With Me?
I'm totally retro, love a good prawn cocktail,
Oh,
lamb
very-
tagine and chocolate profiteroles.
Oh,
Fab.
nice.
Welcome around any time, lads.
Yeah. Well, then, if you could win one reality show, what would that reality show be?
Big Brother, the early days.
The Anna Nolan days.
Yes.
Yes.
Love her. Yeah.
Well, that's all we have for you
Yeah,
today, Claire.
brilliant.
I hope you enjoyed the conversation, and thanks
Thanks
so
so
much for
much.
all of
Thanks
the
for having me.
advice for
Thanks for
everybody.
coming in, yeah. Really
And
appreciate
if anyone needs to check out Airfield or any of the events, or wants to get any cooking classes or vouchers for Christmas, where do they go?
So it's airfield.ie. Is the best place to find us, and from that you'll see all of our different social channels, and yeah, think about us when you're getting off the Lewis in Ballally. Turn right instead of left. We're just at the top of the hill. 1-2 minute walk away.
Fabulous.
Okay.
Well, wish you the best of luck there. Thanks so much.
Thanks
you.
a million.
Thank you.